You are listening to These Walls Can Talk, a Hope Outdoor Gallery podcast.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of These Walls Can Talk, where we're talking about art in the creative community here in Austin, Texas. My host is Andy Scull, my sister and co-producer. I am Chris Scull, and we're here with two awesome artists, Matt Trujillo, as well as Philip Parker. We're so glad y'all are in the building.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Our whole vibe is to just share things going on throughout the creative community, stories about the Hope Outdoor Gallery, stories about how we coped through all things during COVID, and just crazy shit.
The untold stuff.
That's right.
The real DIY, the real behind the scenes, the real crazy stuff.
The real stories.
The fun stuff.
That's right.
Just the fun stuff.
I hope my life is crazy enough to come up with stories.
Oh, dude, I know enough. I could talk for you.
All right, cool. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. I'm not worried.
Not at all.
And then Parker here, Mr. Pink, actually.
Yeah.
The real fun people in Austin. No, Parker is Mr. Pink.
Well, thank you. That's my alter ego.
Is
He
it
only comes
though?
out every once in a while.
Really?
Yeah, I would say so.
Maybe Parker's your alter ego and Mr. Pink is the real you.
I hadn't thought about it that way.
See?
Yeah.
That's what I was in.
Yeah. Could be.
How'd the Mr. Pink thematic start?
Well, it was an accident, actually.
Oh, I love this story.
I wanted to buy a boat, so...
So Austin.
Yeah, and so I had been renting boats prior to that, and I realized that having people find you on the lake can be pretty difficult because a lot of boats are like lots of random colors. It's like red with yellow swirls and different things going on. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to just make my boat bright pink. And so I bought a boat, and I went and took it, and I got it wrapped pink. And I told the guy that was wrapping it, I was like, hey, can you put Mr. Pink on the side, thinking that he understood that it should go along one of the rub rails in the back or something. And so when I showed up, he had put it in big, like giant letters, like 2-foot letters on both sides, said Mr. Pink and like these huge, like Victoria's Secret like style letters. And I kind of looked at it and I was like, that's not really what I was talking about, but yeah, fuck it. And I just took it. And so I got on the lake. I didn't think, I thought people would understand the boat was Mr. Pink. But it didn't take long before people start calling me Mr. Pink, and then I just kind of ran with it. Honestly, I was like, all right, we'll just go with this.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just buckle in. Buckle in.
Yeah,
I don't even know what a rub rail is, but I'm sure the guy who put the sign up was trying to rub one out. But either way, it got up there.
Dude.
Yeah.
I'm here for one reason and one reason only.
No, it's turned into almost a brand in its own way, and it was interesting because it sort of just took a life of its own. I didn't really try to promote it or make it who I was, but in a lot of ways it does resonate with the kind of person I am, I would say.
I feel like you've given Victoria's Secret a run for their money.
Oh, you think so?
They have the whole like pink line, don't they? There's like
I think they do. Yeah.
And for me, when I see or even think of pink, I think of you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's
Which
great.
is interesting too, like because Philip Parker, like you go by Parker, and it's like this. It's like to me, it's like the Spider-Man story, like, and then Mr. Pink. It's just like, it is a brand. It is. It's a following.
Yeah.
Maybe
He does have a cult following.
Pink Parker.
Pink Parker. I go by Parker, Mr. Pink.
Parker
a lot of
Pink.
times, like on different things, I have to use as sign-ins or screen names.
Yeah.
So because nobody's really using that, so it's kind of easy to use across the board.
Yeah.
Now, not trying to throw a wrench in anything, but in LA, there's a famous Mr. Pink's hot dog establishment, but I'm sure there's room to play nice. So I'm sure it's all good. They don't have a boat or anything. So
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in a partnership there.
Do you still have the boat?
I do, yeah. I just haven't really gotten it out that much. Just been super busy. But I do want to get it out more.
If you needed to touch water, I got you. If you need me to take it out for a day and just...
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the weather's been pretty nice, so maybe we'll get out here. It needs to be ran, so maybe I'll get you guys out here soon.
Dude, that would actually be a funny as shit thing. Like to have like doppelgangers, like basically people in pink cowboy hats and like your signature, like someone driving around the boat that looks like you.
Yeah, just to make sure that it's
Just keep that
staying
brand.
out
It's
there.
like
keep
Weekend
that
at
brand
Bernie's,
going.
except Weekend at Parker's.
It's
Yeah.
called an alibi.
There we go.
No, I was out there. Of course, I was out there. One pink boat, you know.
Yeah,
It's true.
I like the way you think.
It'll
true.
come in handy later.
Oh yeah. I love our friendship and how we've met, and I've really enjoyed watching your kind of creativity grow in all these different ways since we've become friends, and through your involvement with Hope Outdoor Gallery. And then Matt, the same. Like I feel like both of you, I think me and many others have gotten like the unique opportunity to watch you guys grow as creatives and artists and into anything and everything that you specifically have been envisioning. And then I love that you guys have done some work together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, projection mapped a few of my pieces.
Yeah.
I think the first one was at Cirque Noir upstairs.
It was, yeah.
Upstairs at Native. That was an interesting time.
Yeah, I mean, Matt's work is it goes well with projection mapping because it's hard lines and it's big empty. I would call them white spaces, but that's the term I want to use, where there's a lot of room to put animations inside of, and so it complements those two types of mediums. I think complement each other quite well.
Totally.
It's just really cool to see like like your painting come to life, you know, and just see how it could be, I don't know, just in a different, I don't know how to explain it, just like in a different world, you know, like it just becomes a different piece to me, and I think that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, so since this show is specifically about like the untold, crazy DIY behind the scenes stories that no one could Google about. I mean, we're not trying to get anybody in trouble on the show,
Yeah.
but you know, we won't hate on it if we do.
Just teeter the line.
Yeah.
It's right on the rub rails.
Was there anything insane or crazy that ever happened in one of these installs, or when you guys were like working on doing some projection mapping together, or I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean,
Like, that's impossible.
I would say that, you know, that first one was kind of in one of those weird moments, one of those waves. So it was one of those things where you were kind of questioning whether or not we should be doing that sort of thing, you know? And there was a lot of differences of opinion about being together in spaces and doing things of that nature. And so, I mean, in that regard, you know, it was one of those things where it became one of those things of understanding that for a lot of people, they see this as their own decision. And so I would say that was really more kind of along the lines of where we were at that time when we were doing that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like there was huge groups of people getting together, but we were, you know, coming together and doing creative things and
Yeah.
keeping ourselves inspired.
Yeah, I think that is probably the most craziest thing, is that like we were just questioning ourselves, like you said, like should we be out now? Like should we be around each other? Can I trust you? Like that whole like COVID mindset was definitely there for it. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you know, we were still being safe and we weren't doing anything too crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know why. That just to me, it sounds like being a girl at a high school dance. Like, should I dance with you? Can I trust you?
Yeah, it really made you question your relationships a lot.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely that. I felt like a high school girl at a dance.
Yeah.
Is that really? You're
That's
like,
exactly the metaphor
just
that
brought
was
me
in my
back
head.
to.
Brought me back. Yeah, it was crazy.
Thinking of Dumb and Dumber. I want to make love to a schoolboy. Never mind. You guys will figure it out later.
All you gotta do is throw in those tidbits, and the people will get it.
Someone will.
Yeah, someone will.
1 out of 20. No, but I think we all were going through, how do we balance out at that time of being alone and trying to still feel healthy and safe, but also feeling this need to have an outlet to create, to feel quote unquote normal, but also not, you know, go against anything. None of us obviously wanted to hurt anybody, but there was a need or a desire to, start living again. So that's what I found fascinating is when can anyone decide throughout that and utilize our creativity for good and have a great effect on other people, but also being conscious and responsible and such. So
For sure.
yeah, it was an amazing time, and I think the creativity helped so much.
Had
And
to, yeah.
as we kind of find our way, hopefully, out of all this shit.
Yeah, I
for
think
sure.
that was the only time I ever stepped out of the house was to create or to be a part of that, and somehow, like the hope when you guys had us come out and like paint all the boards that were covering all the bar windows downtown.
Oh, wow, that's a whole other also kind of correlation between the two of you. Like, yes, the Hope for Health campaign, and
Yeah,
then doing the boards. I mean, that was really crazy.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I when you were asking the questions, what's the scariest time you've ever painted? That would probably be one of, like, up there for sure.
Really?
Just because mentally, I was already knowing what was going on in the world because I was paying attention to what was happening, like in New York and LA, and like they were like months ahead of us as far as closing down in the pandemic. And I think whenever we went to go paint that downtown, I was like, I'm going literally to the dirtiest street in Austin.
Shout out
Which is-
36. Shout out 36.
Which is so. We are also here at the Ibble Studios. In fact, these walls behind you are some of the oldest walls in the city of Austin, literally. Here on 6th Street,
Yeah.
Wow.
36.
Yeah.
we're pretty much almost across the street is where you.
Oh yeah, there's still a couple that are up. Like you walk outside right here, there's still some positive messages going on that people had painted during
Yeah.
COVID.
I think Buffalo Billiards still isn't open, so some of
Right.
those boards up and
Yeah,
the artwork's
yeah.
still up.
Well, so I guess to give the audience a little context, so during COVID, we came with this idea to be able to kick some artists a little bit of funds, but also put together these like Hope for Health packages and just bring some positive messaging to the city, but instead of all these closed up, boarded up businesses, but especially down here on 6th Street where it's pretty easy because they're all together. And tons of artists stepped up, and we're like, I'm in, I want to do it. But this is my first time to hear it as like really being scary.
Yeah, I mean, like that's just personally. Like I said, I already knew what was going on, and yeah, when I told my mom I was gonna go down there, she was worried. Well, she's always worried about everything, but it was just kind of.
But you just like piled it on. You're like, so Mom, I'm gonna go down to 6th Street. You're doing what?
Yeah.
With a group of artists. I'm sorry, what?
I know I'm not supposed to go outside.
During the pandemic.
During pandemic. Shut
Yeah.
the fuck.
And there's bums walking around everywhere
With needles.
with needles. Yeah, yelling at us while we're painting about the pandemic being fake and coughing all over us.
And I'm gonna take an Uber. Or what else could you add? Like,
Well, I mean, jokes aside, this was very early on. This was like the first month.
Oh, for
and,
sure.
There's so much information that whether, what's going on, what's not, and it's just a lot of static and a lot of other things were going on too.
Yeah.
Regarding, police brutality, a lot of different things.
Oh, man.
And, well, just so much happening at the same time, and the streets were hot.
Yeah, streets were hot and dirty.
well, so then cut to the crazy fun part though. So then I started hitting up a bunch of friends and supporters, and Parker was one of them. I was like, listen, we want to be able to pay these artists, and so we'll do it like this where, maybe some of these boards afterwards can like go to good homes and so Parker stepped up immediately. And so Parker and I were also part of the same Q crew.
Mm-hmm.
And we all could trust these
Quarantine
few,
Q.
yeah, or,
Q.
Yeah.
dude. Oh, don't jump in on. Do not encourage him.
We're in a happy place, man. You're welcome here. Just
Next
just
show,
live.
you're sitting over here. Yeah.
I don't know
Do
that
separate
reference.
them? Yeah.
It's okay. Continue.
We could play the whisper game. So I would say that Parker's house was a place we could trust and have some fun at. And so I don't know. Do you want to share any of the?
Well, I mean, I
Mr.
could say
Pink's
that,
Palace.
you know,
Well,
part of-
which kind of led into it. So I've got some of Mr. Pink's art now behind me, and got some in between the boys here. But this really evolved during COVID, and I feel like evolved through some of this stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, kind of go back on to the paintings on Dirty Six, like it looked like it looked like a zombie apocalypse had happened because it was the first time that everything got boarded up.
Yep.
And I don't think anybody was really expecting that, and sort of the what it did to everybody's psyche to see it that way. I mean, it definitely lent it a lot more gravitas as far as the fact that this was getting pretty serious. But I think the idea to paint that street was really smart because it kind of gave people like a sense of hope, you know. And it wasn't like we're trying to necessarily say we're using hope as the brand, but it really did kind of give you a sense of like, okay, you know, the world's not completely ending. We can beautify this a little bit. It doesn't have to be so depressing. And so that was one of the things that that was one of the main reasons I really got involved on that side of it. But yeah, I mean, my house, so just for context, I have a pool. And
There's a lot of peas in this show.
yeah, I normally rent this house as a vacation rental, and so I hadn't actually spent much time in it myself. And so then, of course, when South by got canceled and the lockdown started happening, I had like 2 or 3 months of bookings all cancel at once, and I realized I was very lucky to have this space to be in. You know, there was a lot of people that I know were in much worse conditions than I was. They were, you know, with 3 or 4 roommates stuck in a tiny little apartment or something. And believe me, I've been there in my life, so I understand what that's like. And I was laying in my pool one day, and I was realizing, like, wow, I'm so lucky to be able to do this. I should share this with my friends, you know?
And share he did. And share he did.
Yeah, and so just a small group of us, we had a pact that we were only going to see each other, and we weren't going to be out mingling with other people, and so that we keep each other safe, and it worked. You know, nobody got sick during that time, and we had a pretty amazing time together. I, you know, got to try out a lot of different lighting conditions in my house, a lot of different mapping ideas. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I mean, super like appreciated too. I feel like the few friends who we knew that these kind of zones and kind of the, you know, pack. But there's something that Chris and I were talking about with some other friends. It's just so awesome the things that happen when creatives come together. And we're like, all right, what are we gonna do?
Right. I mean, that's
You
one
know?
of the most amazing things about our friends is that pretty much without any prior planning, we can get together in basically an empty space and create something amazing because everybody's bringing something to the table. And so it's, you know, it's amazing. When I have friends over, it's amazing what they bring with them. And so, you know, next thing you know, I have a house full of lasers, and we're putting bubble bath into the pool, and yeah, it's you know,
Is it
55
pink
degrees
bubble
outside,
bath?
so it's steaming, and there's lasers shooting through the steam, and yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Dude, that was hands down one of my favorite photos during COVID stuff was Parker sending me a photo with the text, "We turned my pool into a bubble bath."
Yeah,
It's just like,
it was the biggest bubble bath ever, I think.
it was, yeah. So, all right, come on, Matt.
That sounds awesome.
And it was
Yeah.
sanitized. I'm sure it was helping sanitize.
Yeah,
You know,
keeping
there's
everybody very
there's some positivity from the responsible side.
Everyone was
That's right.
very clean at that party.
Yep.
It was super clean.
All the nooks and the crannies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. All right, Matt. So it doesn't have to be. I mean, part of the show is also like, kind of even sharing if you're working on a mural or a piece of artwork, and like, you know, what might have been some of your secret recipe or some experience that you had that really brought out the creativity, or really inspired you.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of something off the top of my head of like a funny moment while painting. You know, I usually like throw my headphones in and like just zone in. But I don't know. Speaking of the pandemic, I mean, I have to keep my hands busy. So like just constantly creating every day was something that I had to do, and I experimented a lot with different types of mediums and started DJing as well, and
Oh, right.
yeah, and also I don't know, with Hope too. I was just super involved too. Me and Chris did all the Hope bags.
Yeah.
Spray painted all Hope on all the bags, and then helped Chris fill them all up. And I don't know, I was just like super busy during COVID, as busy as I could possibly be.
Yeah.
Reading, trying to research things, actually trying to teach myself new ways of living and staying creative.
Yeah, and I noticed that when we were doing the Hope for Health project, like, yeah, Matt stepped up. I mean, he not only painted these beautiful works downtown against his mother's wishes, but yeah, helped in getting all these supplies, putting things together. But the idea of being healthy by being busy and by feeding your brain, like, I applaud you on doing that in all these different ways, because you had the time and it kept you driven, kept you going.
Well, we all had the time. I mean,
Yeah.
that's part of the point. That, you know, it's interesting because some friends of mine that aren't necessarily in the creative community, to me, I noticed that those were more of my friends that were kind of falling into depression and stuff. You know, like I was even trying to not share. You're like, what'd you do today? I don't want to be like, oh, I was at Parker's having a bubble bath. Like,
Right.
I was like, oh, nothing. Just, home, not doing anything.
Yeah.
But really, there is that part of creatives that we have to be making or doing,
Yeah.
that helps to keep you. And that's what I've been saying. That's how we breathe.
Yeah.
Right.
And we also create off of life experiences. And if we're not having any life experiences, it's kind of hard to create, And I also am somebody that I didn't want to create a bunch of pieces that were about the pandemic,
Right.
I created one piece that was the feeling I was going through at that moment. And I called it In the Midst. I didn't want to call it in the midst of a crisis or in the midst of a pandemic, because I didn't want to I didn't even want to use those words. I hated hearing the word COVID, pandemic, crisis. I just wanted to step away from that as much as possible. So, yeah, other than that, I mean, DJing, doing some abstract collage work, and painting, and also I would go to Native just to help Mesmerize. That's when they were building out the whole Mesmerize at Native.
Right.
And I would literally go over there and paint walls. I was like, what do you guys need help with? Like, I'll just go and paint a wall for you or whatever. Like, just staying busy in that world, and also super thankful for all the creatives in Austin. The community here is just, the art community is just so strong. And we did a lot of Zoom calls and, just drinking on Zoom. Like,
Did you do like the house party games?
we didn't.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we did a couple of those, but we're all creatives and our minds are all over the place. So like trying to coordinate something like that with a bunch of creatives is just like doesn't work. So yeah, we were like drinking, hanging out on Zoom. That was pretty fun. And then there's also there was this app called Jukebox, and everybody can join it, and then everyone adds stuff to the queue, and then you could also chat in there. So we started sharing music, and that's when like really music started like opening up a lot for me too, because I grew up on like metal and hip hop. Those are my top two genres. But like just coming into a whole new world of house and
Don't do it, Chris.
all kinds of different types of
Not
music.
yet.
I felt the Little Mermaid just coming up. It's okay.
Not yet.
No. Okay. Sorry.
So yeah, I mean, like, and then I think from that and us being in that realm together, I mean, it's probably the same as for you guys. I just brought us so much closer together. You know what I mean? Like our foundation is so strong that like I think that's why the community is thriving so hard right now. Like if you really like step back and see what's going on as far as like artists in the community, like everyone's working together on such a like a higher level because we all believe in each other, and then also we all want to see each other win. And and the pie is so big here in Austin. You know what I mean? There shouldn't be a gatekeeper to anything that we're doing. And yeah, it's very interesting what's happening right now, especially in the community.
Yeah.
I mean, I can say for sure that I've seen like an explosion of creativity since this all started. And I mean, you can see it in Native, especially because Native is almost a completely different place than it was prior to that. And it's just become like this sort of haven for creatives and art community in Austin. It's really, really cool to see.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's, we were talking about earlier how having what, you know, a lot of the artists used to refer to the park as like their church, and I'll use the terms watering holes. And
Someone called it college.
oh, that's right. Jason
Etherly, he was like, just thought of a couple of those years as like practice walls, or just being able to have a space to perfect your craft and to try shit and to, you know, have the obstacles of you know, the scale, but not have the worry of, you know, policing or something like that. Really having a safe haven to try shit.
Yeah.
And to get stronger and graduate in some way.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think that's the magic of those particular walls and that project, at least for many artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I wish I painted more at Hope when I had the opportunity. When I first moved here, I didn't think I don't know. I didn't think I was talented enough to put something up there. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that I didn't do it. I painted I painted there within like a month of moving here. Like I put my face on the wall.
That's right.
Just because, you know, that's the only original thing I could think of doing at the time.
Which actually, so I brought in this brick that I remember Miles bringing over to my place, and he was like, "Yeah, you gotta see this guy," and I'm like, "All right, cool."
Yeah, I haven't seen this in a while.
I know it was a while back. So much as, I mean, it's not just having this show to talk about like 10 years of the park. I mean, that's why it was like starting this podcast to then have COVID, just the growth of the city, technology, just all these dope things happening that you combine all that together to then like have you talk about how when you first came here, you weren't sure if you want, you're like, but I did anyway.
Yeah, I did anyway. And then the second time I painted at Hope, it was me and my brother-in-law Louis. He wasn't my brother-in-law at the time. He was just my best friend.
Whoa, how's that working out?
That's a story within itself. Well, I have a niece and nephew, and they're married.
Okay,
yeah.
good. Success.
So it's
Success.
turned out great. But when I first moved to Austin, it was to do a clothing brand company.
No kidding.
It was called One Syndicate Above, OSA.
Wait, what is it?
One Syndicate Above.
Okay.
It originally was One Step Ahead, but then we changed it.
Wait, what was that brainstorm session like? You just have a big O, a S, and an A.
Yeah.
You just get throwing words in.
Well, we threw it. Yeah, it's OSA
Like,
at the end of the
shit.
day.
Wait, I would love to see that spitball board.
One sad asshole.
See?
One syndicate above. Yeah, we were. The reason why we had to change One Step Ahead is because we started like coming up with a website, like actually making the website, and a lot of like baby websites were coming up. You know, because it's like one step. You know, it's like the first step and all that.
See? The
but
creative process.
I mean,
you never know.
it's a
The stuff that people don't even realize you go through.
Yeah.
It's a step-by-step process.
Yeah, but yeah, step by step.
Every little step by... No. Okay.
So once we actually launched the website and had our T-shirts ready, like we were screen printing them ourselves. Like this was totally raw, just me and him creating this thing. We went to.
Do you have any shirts still?
We have a couple, yeah, for sure.
I want one.
We went to Hope
No,
and we put
to sell 'em?
no, not sell, but we put onesyndicateabove.com huge across that front wall, and we got so much hate for it.
Kind of like billboard.
Yeah, because people thought we were some clothing brand from Houston. I don't know where that rumor got around, but that was.
Wait, forget the fact that you went over someone's. I mean, how big are we talking?
I mean, we went to the top. I mean, we got the whole top section. So at the bottom is usually where everybody hits. We painted.
You went up, yeah.
We painted the letters upside down. Like I was literally hanging upside down, like rolling up, and he was rolling from down there with the.
They wouldn't have been as mad if you didn't do the .com.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure. I get that.
I think they could have been Google your shit and still find you.
Yeah, one syndicate above across would probably be more.
Did you like go
about it.
slash homepage
slash slash
HTTP.
store, yeah,
Just get right to that
slash
particular
store.
window.
Click now.
Schmedium.
Use discount code. Blah blah. Yeah.
Well, which is funny though. I feel like through COVID, now like we're all down with QR codes, right? But they've been
Yeah.
around for a long time,
For sure.
right? But then, I mean, I just remember with some people wanting to do stuff like that. I'm like, maybe not the .com, but do you have a QR code?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. COVID definitely got us used to the QR code as far as like looking up menus and all that.
Yeah, it was always like advertisements before. I feel like you'd scan something, it was an advertisement. But
Yeah.
now it has real purpose.
Yeah.
does it?
Well, I
At my
mean,
desk.
Is it?
I hate using the
It's the
QR
same.
code
Yeah.
at a restaurant. Like that's probably the worst. Because as soon as everybody sits down, now everybody's on their phone.
I've thought
Right.
about. I literally thought about getting a QR code tattooed on my arm that has like a link to my website, and then if I need to exchange contact information with somebody, I was like, here, just scan my arm.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like a business card ready to go all the time.
Yeah.
No, not a
Sure.
good idea.
No,
Dude,
I mean,
what Minority Report me now.
If you can
know?
make it look beautiful, maybe if it's cute art or something, but it's gonna lose its technology advance soon, right? There's gonna be another level. I'm thinking.
Well, okay. So here's what I
Potentially.
just thought with that, which I actually think is dope as hell, and then it scares the shit out of me. So
that sounds like every great idea.
right,
Yeah.
right. See, this is the stuff that we would talk about at the pool.
True.
When we had all this time on our hands.
Were things bubbling up?
I remember when you got like a pull-up bar. I feel like so many friends were starting mini gyms in their homes.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just thinking if it was white ink.
White ink. Yeah. That makes sense.
Would it still scan?
I guess that's a good question because most of them
Well-
are black, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, but I'm saying if you just need a black light.
To light
I
it
mean,
up.
it's
Now I have to carry an extra device on me though. That's. I mean, maybe if we could develop
don't
a
know.
cell phone that had a black light on it, that'd be kind of cool.
I think they probably do.
There's got to be one, right?
It could happen.
Party phone of some kind.
Probably some new Google glasses.
Yeah.
You just
Sounds like something Samsung would do.
Raymond. you
Party
on it?
phone.
What starts here could change. the
Working
world,
on it.
Yeah, I know. See,
You heard it here first.
it's. I'm just gonna throw a little out there. I'm gonna guess that this is probably the only podcast ever that has a rocket scientist as the engineer behind it.
It's pretty impressive.
Raymond, we could probably look that up, right?
Yeah, that's me over here.
Yeah.
Falling far.
One of the smartest people on earth.
We're descending from 1,200,000 feet. We're going a little lower.
Could you talk closer to the mic?
Hey, you got to have passion projects too,
That's
true.
right.
Yeah,
It's very important.
Matt, I'm gonna jump back to something that you said. I mean, this idea of feeling of not feeling like you were up to snuff or ready or good enough or all that. That's normally me. Anytime before I perform a live set or do anything, I get all these questions I have in my own mind, at least early on, and then I get into my groove, and then I like get myself to this confident place. But the reason why I think I do this method is to to try to check all that I can off. Am I prepared? Did I do this? Do I have that? Am I, and it happens almost every time I perform.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it anymore because I'm conscious enough to know that I'm good, but I'm also self-aware enough to know that like I'm imperfect.
Yeah.
And I think that's the sweet spot, because I love your work, and I think, I'm so proud of like the evolution that's going on with you and so many other great artists, but to still be a humble human, be like, to not second guess, but to at least think about it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of me. It reminds me of probably so many other people who,
Yeah.
are trying to work it out within their own brain while wanting to share and create and improve.
Definitely. I mean, I think that comes from our perfectionist self, you know what I mean? And also, we want to do our best, And I think that just shows that you still have passion in what you're doing, Because if you don't have those jitters or those feelings or those thoughts, then you're kind of just in the motion, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, I got asked about that. Like, I did an artist talk not too long ago for my solo show. And there's an artist that asked a question, and he's like, how do you get past imposter syndrome? And I was like, that's something I still deal with, Like, even coming to a podcast like this, I'm like, why would anybody want to hear me talk? But at the same time, I got to, like, just trust the process and understand that if I'm asked to be here, then I'm asked to be here for a reason, And if I'm doing a solo show at West Chelsea, then I'm doing it for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
And just trusting that and leaning into it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can say for sure that I've suffered from imposter syndrome several times.
Yeah.
And when I entered back into the art world, because I was a musician, and then I went into technology
Yeah.
and back into art. I still do the technology side as well, but I can say that going back into the art
Parker
world.
used to be a drummer for like a signed band in L.A.
That's
Nice.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to play drums too.
Oh, did you? Okay.
No
Not
shit.
for a signed band, but just local bands,
Yeah.
New Mexico.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we had like a moment of glory. We actually won a battle of the bands by a company called Uber at the time, and yeah,
little company.
Not the same Uber that we know today. It was a different one.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a different one.
They didn't make it.
Yeah.
What?
Little did they know, but
How little they would be and how big they would be.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe they got a lawsuit later on
You
fighting
know,
for the name.
This was quite a few years ago, so I think it was before like the concept of Uber that we know now today existed, but may have been before the smartphone, honestly.
Wow.
What was
But-
the company? Sorry, I just have to know.
They were like a media company. They were
Okay.
doing featuring bands and artists and
I
things
just
like
feel
that.
like learning about this T-shirt company to the.
Yeah. And so, but they had some sort of backing because they were partnered with like Universal Records and Pure Publishing and the Agency Group, I think is what they were called. And anyway, we won a Battle of the Bands. It was a national Battle of the Bands, and we had done some things prior to that to kind of get some attention too, but that really is what sort of launched us into getting signed. And we cut a 5-song EP, and
That's awesome.
had a moment of glory.
What kind of music?
It was sort of indie rock, like
Heavy metal R&B.
Yeah, sort of Green Day. I kind of say like
Just what
Green
you
Day means
like.
like Franz Ferdinand.
Okay.
You remember Franz Ferdinand?
Yeah.
Do we have the time to listen to him whine, or do we? Never mind. Go ahead.
Master of the puns over here.
That's right.
I didn't realize that.
Pun master.
I thought
Yeah.
that's
You
why I'm
didn't?
here.
I didn't know that. No.
What?
Yeah.
I'm Rapunzel over here, just trying to let down.
It's a talent. It's a talent.
It's the Punisher.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. No. So yeah. But
So
basically,
you got into the art, and then you started going back into the art world.
yeah, I mean, even when I was a drummer, I went to music school. I studied drums. I still felt like an imposter a lot during that time. And then going into technology, and I created a website that ended up being my full-time living, and still had imposter syndrome, even though I created this thing and I was living off of it. And then going into the art world, I went through a moment of it when I came back into it, but I realized that through those processes before, that a lot of it had kind of boiled down to like self-confidence and self-image and self-awareness, and sort of learning to have self-compassion, right? That you don't need perfection, that you're just doing the best you can, and realizing, a big realization I had with my website is that I was like, wait, nobody did this for me. Like, I did this. Like, why am I feeling like an imposter here? You know what I mean? Like, I created all of this. And so there's just that realization of, like, it wasn't like anybody handed this skill or this thing that I have now to me.
Right.
And so I think even with artists, where these are your art, this is your creation. Nobody's making it for you. There's no reason to feel like an imposter.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's this process of realization. I think a lot of people struggle with it, especially if you are more on the humble side. And I would say a lot of times, people who don't struggle with imposter syndrome occasionally, those are the kind of people you need to watch out with, because they probably are suffering from a bit of narcissism. And not to say that there isn't a little bit there that's probably good sometimes, but it can also be pretty destructive. So,
Yeah.
I think having just self-awareness of the process, like you were saying, is really what's important.
I think so too. I mean, there's probably a unique balance of having enough awareness to know that you're trying to do the best you can to be you, but also not being so caught up in comparison that you can't be you.
For sure.
And I think it's going to be an ongoing thing, but that's what's exciting when seeing everybody just start doing the work. It's like, well, let me just keep going and then let everyone else critique it. I'm not going to over critique. I'm just going to keep doing me.
Yeah, and I think what you find too is that people are not critiquing your work as much as you probably think that they are, and especially, the thing is that with art and creative endeavors, people will judge them. You'll be at an art event or something, and somebody's looking at that, and they may be having, like, there's this role that they feel like they need to take on sometimes of becoming the critic. And I think that's been born out of a lot of reality television over the last 20 years.
Social media.
Yeah, where you're supposed to have these opinions about everything, but in the end, these are fleeting thoughts that people are having. They don't really mean anything. And if you are paying attention, there's probably something to be learned there as well. If somebody's critiquing something about your work,
Yeah.
it's a place for growth.
Right. And I think it's healthy for the most part. Like, everyone's going to be drawn to something. And that's what I think the more creatives and friends that we've talked to, everyone's got their own style. And another artist was on an episode and was sharing more about that we're all in this community together, and we all are accepted for who we are, and we're all contributing in one way or another, but nobody's trying to fucking do the same thing.
Right.
This is by no means a competition. This is a community. And, it's almost like going to someone's home and having a potluck dinner, and everyone brings different shit, and they bring something that's either a reflection of themselves or what they like, or pot, or anything.
Sure.
But it's community.
Yeah.
Right.
And
yeah.
it tastes good most of the time.
Well, which I would like to dabble into that a little bit on this show with these two individuals. We've brought up microdosing, and in that, to me, having to do with kind of the creative community and us always reaching out more, and seeing, okay, what could I do now? What could I do now? But I love how this also relates to Hope Outdoor Gallery, given that I feel that for our group, as soon as it started becoming acknowledged for these different things, that we were not imposter, but it was we just wanted to make another place where artists could experiment and try, and so I always called it a visual open mic. There's great, you got to have a place where you test material, see if the joke is funny, try that song out, try and do things you've never done before, build your courage, but also the crazy stuff that would happen there. So one of my then as we moved along, and then people were saying how Hope Outdoor Gallery is saving Austin with all this growth we had going on, and I kept feeling why are people saying that? Stop saying that. It's too much pressure. But then I realized, no one's excited about the new Google building.
True.
It was just in comparison to,
Yeah.
But one of my favorite stories is waddling out to the park, actually. I think I was pregnant with my second daughter. And I go out and I see this sign I see something in the ground. It's just like over there on the other side. So I'm like waddling over, like 7 months pregnant, literally like flip flops, 100 degrees, Austin, perfect day. And I see this sign, and as I get closer, I see that on the sign it says the word "you." I'm like, cool. And then as I get closer, I realize that this sign is hung like a real estate sign. It's like hanging from this one arm, and this thing in the ground is a giant screw. And so this sculptural statement was "screw you"
Oh, wow.
at the Hope Outdoor Gallery. And I was like, this is the best thing ever.
What a creative burn.
I know, like I couldn't.
It's right up my alley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it a Phillips head or?
Yes. Yeah. Or no, I'm sorry. Actually, it wasn't a Phillips. But, and I didn't feel it was a knock. It was literally a statement that someone was making to someone else. Like we constantly saw people using the park as messages. Mm-hmm. Like I went there once, and there was a stuffed alien on the top of one of the electrical poles, and all I could think was, someone came out here at 2:00 in the morning and was like, "I'm gonna install an alien." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I love that.
shimmied up.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Kind of going back to what you're saying is that nobody, for the most part, goes to tours, like goes to other cities to tour the buildings. I mean, there's the touring of the architecture like, that you'll take like in Chicago or something like that, but you're not going specifically to see like the Google building or something like that. Maybe the Sears Tower because it's so tall. But if you're there, you're going to the Bean, right? Like everybody goes to the Bean. People are going to where the creative things are happening. That's what they really want to see, and that's what people are really taking pictures of and enjoying. And I think that's sort of what Hope is for Austin. So we're making sure that we're taking something that this organic, amazing thing that happened, and continuing it, making sure it doesn't go away. That we're not losing the soul of our culture of the city.
Yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so back to microdosing. Yeah, I mean, I've just constantly been curious, like with all like musician friends, actor friends, creatives, like, what everyone has their own kind of secret recipe, like, or I feel like some friends are like, oh, I have to have like a whole pot of coffee, so that's why I've just been noticing that just microdosing or whatever the recipe is, like, I don't know. Do either of you have any like fun stories in those realms?
Boy, that's a.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, if you have an answer, go ahead. I'm gonna have to think about that one for a second.
Microdosing? No. I mean, when it comes to like me actually painting and like executing a piece, I really have to be sober. Like I have, like it's such a process that like I need. I've already tried to do it like while drinking and like or like whatever, and I just end up super upset because I just messed up somehow, or I just didn't execute it the way I would want to execute it. But as far as like when I'm designing and like coming up with a piece, I'll smoke weed or drink, but that's probably about it. Those are like my two vices when it comes to that. I've definitely microdosed on mushrooms before, but that's kind of like a heavier story. I don't know if you want to know it or not, but
We're intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, heavy like an elephant.
more like heavy as in just like real life shit.
Oh,
Your
Well,
choice.
it's up to you.
It was.
I mean, the Punisher's
I mean,
here,
I'll
so-
talk about it because I don't mind talking about it. It's nothing that I'm like ashamed of or anything like that. But during COVID, it was it was tough for all of us. But that was probably the moment I found out like I was suffering with depression at the time. I honestly like I've dealt with anxiety all my life. Like I found out I had anxiety when I was in high school and having anxiety attacks, but never depression. I never thought that would be something that I would deal with. I love life and I'm super thankful for everything, and I know how to make the best out of any situation. Yeah. So anyway, during COVID, I felt super weak. I felt uninspired. I felt weird. I didn't know what I was feeling. So I actually talked to like a doctor on the phone, told him all my symptoms, what I was feeling. And he was like, yeah, you're suffering with depression. And I'm like, no. I don't. And we went back and forth, and he was like, yeah. So they subscribed me antidepressants, right? And that was the first.
Like what kind? What are?
Honestly, I don't remember. I don't even remember the name of the.
Because you
it
were
was
in
like
the
an
military,
off-brand. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Which branch of the military?
The Army.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like an off-brand, like Zoloft or something like that. But yeah, so I started taking that, and I was maybe like a month and a half into it, maybe 2 months, and it just made me super numb of life. Like I wasn't happy about anything, I wasn't sad about anything, and I really didn't care about anything. And like, it was hard for me to hear anybody talk about anything or have a conversation, because I just literally did not care where this conversation was going. And it took me a while to understand that that's what that was doing to me. So whenever I decided to like get off that, I decided to microdose on mushrooms. And I microdosed maybe for like 3 days after that, just to like ease off of it. And then, and then I just never did it again. But yeah, so that was like probably the only time I really microdose mushrooms for an intention, you know, other than like maybe I've done it before, like just going out to the pool with some friends or something. But but actually taking it with an intention and trying to help me in the longer run, it would be to get off that and just get back to normal.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, just for factual, I would not call that heavy.
Yeah.
Not.
No, but
I mean,
you were looking
it's
into
great.
it at the very
It's great.
least, and
Yeah.
I liked it. Like I feel like I have some of those feelings at times, and I don't know if I've looked into it as much, but I would imagine that same kind of feeling of I'd rather have more sensitivity than to be numb.
For sure.
When you were sharing that, I imagined this idea, and this isn't trying to be a joke, but to be wrapped in bubble wrap. And you can't, if you're wrapped in bubble wrap, you're safe, right? But you can't hear, you can't see, it's all blurry, you can't hear, the sound is faded. If you've ever wrapped yourself in bubble wrap at Parker's party. But, you know, this idea of like, okay, well,
Or
I'm
at
safe.
home by yourself with your dog, like my brother does.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Shout out to Dilla dog. All right. But, yeah, just this idea of like, okay, well, I'm safe, but I'm not living,
Yeah.
you know? And
It was such a weird feeling. Yeah, to just not feel anything. And then, it was not fun at all. I was like, I'd rather be sad or just going through the motions than to not feel anything. Which I think we all should do, you know, lean into how we feel, whether we're sad, be sad. If you're happy, then be happy. And yeah.
I mean, I can relate with that story. I've been through a similar situation, and I went on antidepressants as well, and sort of the same thing. It just became this place where like I was numbed.
Yeah.
And so, talking about like psychedelics.
This is gonna make my story sound so different.
But
Just so different.
we'll ride the wave.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think with psychedelics, there's a lot of talk about microdosing, and I think it's one of those things where it can be done without intention and can't benefit you. I think psychedelics in a lot of ways will enhance already what's going on with you.
Yeah.
Like they're not really a fix-it sort of thing, and so you have to, if you're already on like a path of I'm trying to improve and find something within myself that needs to be curated, and you're aware of that, then I think these things can help you. And I can tell you that from my perspective that psychedelics, microdosing, things like that, what they really helped me do was have gratitude for my life and appreciation for what I have, and really gratitude for my friends and the people around me, and you know, the nature and everything. It helped sort of like give me a broader vision of my reality, you know, where I think we can become so focused down into the day-to-day tasks of our lives that sometimes that can lead to depression by itself, I think, because we start to lose a sense of purpose. And I think that where psychedelics can really serve people you know, and I'm not trying to encourage people to run out and do this. I think we should have somebody who is experienced who can guide you through this process, but they can really sort of bring you a certain sort of grounding.
Totally.
And, yeah.
Well, I might say the opposite. I mean, this experience that I had during COVID, it was totally intentional. I know you and I have talked about it before, but I haven't brought it up on the show. And then I'm finding it a little comical to share because mine's so different.
Yeah,
Okay.
please share.
Let's hear it.
So I was definitely as a I have a 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, and just pregnant, breastfeeding, raising kids. Like I got into a point where I knew that I could really use some more inspiration, and I've been producing. I haven't been like making any of my own artwork or designing things as much. So I was like, you know what, I really would love to try microdosing mushrooms. I've had friends for years and never had tried. So so I just remember it was like right at the beginning of 2020, and I had asked a friend, I'm like, hey, could you like hook me up with some, and so I just remember I got this little black box of like microdose, and then I just held on to it for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Like, because the few other times I had tried mushrooms in college, like I just remember one time Chris was there. It was like I had a bad experience. Where, me and my volleyball partner. Anyway, I basically come home and I'm under the sheets, and my brother is like, "What's wrong?" And I looked at him. I'm like, "I ate a mushroom cap," and he was like, "Oh my god!" And he had to like help. Anyway, I had this bad kind of trip experience. So, anyway, so I got my little box, 3 months, and I'm like, "Damn it! Like I really wanted." And then COVID happens. So it was like January, February, March, and now we're shut down. And I have my kids, and they leave. And I was like, today's a day. Today's a day. And we had just watched Trolls Worldwide, or my daughters and I had just, and so I was like, I'm going to watch this on mushrooms. I highly recommend this. I highly recommend to anyone. I now have all these other experiences where with intention was like, I sat down and watched an animated kids cartoon filled with color and singing and dancing. And what I discovered is that the one thing I was really missing was singing. That like I'm a visual artist and all this stuff, but I grew up playing the violin. I grew up playing choirs. I love singing. And I started dancing around my house to the Trolls, singing out loud, and realized during COVID that was an expression part of me that I just hadn't been doing for years. But I used to do it all the time.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things that I've noticed about mushrooms in particular, and potentially other psychedelics, is that they, when used appropriately, when used in the correct setting, they make you see the world as a kid again. Like, and that's kind of, you have this new sense of awe and wonder about the world, and it brings out like the inner child, And I think that's one of the most therapeutic things that it can do for you, is sort of remind you of that inner child. That's where a lot of your sense of fun comes from, where you're just kind of uninhibited and just enjoying yourself,
Oh yeah.
I think that's the magical side of it a little bit.
Yep. That's how you got your sunshine in your pocket, that good soul in your feet. Sorry, shout out Timberlake.
Yeah. Which, but I mean, it won like Oscar. Or, no.
Let's not worry about the accolades of the Troll movie or the sequel.
It's a good movie. I've seen it with my niece.
Right?
Yeah, it's good.
Now just try it on,
next
just a
time-
little.
Let's try it on
Just a
mushrooms.
little.
Is it good on weed? Yeah.
I
Next
mean-
time, watch The Chicken Run. You ever seen that?
Oh, it's been
It's
a
a
while.
claymation. It's a claymation movie.
Oh, yeah,
blow
done
your
by the
mind.
Wallace and
Blow your
Gromit.
mind.
Wallace and Gromit
Yeah.
people, Chicken Run.
Oh, okay.
It's what everyone's clucking about.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. We're excited to be building the Future Hope Outdoor Gallery, and the real thematic part about it is called Brick by Brick. And all of these walls wouldn't be made without so many people contributing to it. And so we would like to symbolically thank you guys for joining us, and we want to give you a brick as part of the future park. But as we etch things into the brick for all the contributors, we would love to ask you what you want on your brick.
What I would want on my brick.
Oh man, Matt's not ready.
I was not ready.
He didn't get the prep sheet.
You guys
I did
think
get the
about
prep sheet. Unfortunately, I did not read all of it. But off the top, what I would want my brick to say is probably keep those people around you that inspire you and push you to go further. Community, family, and art.
I'm gonna have to give it a word limit.
Community, family, and art. And then if I could add any more, I would say thank you to. No, I'm just kidding.
.com/homepage.
Cue the music.
I would have put onceanditgetabove.com on there.
There you go. www. Wait. http://www.
Yeah. That would be a nice,
LoveYourFamilyAndYourFriends.com.
it would actually be a really nice full circle moment. I'm just going to put onceanditgetabove.com on it.
Yeah, there you
go.
I feel like I'm gonna like TP your house with OSA or something.
That'd be
Two
cool.
ply.
All right, Mr. Pink.
I think what I'd put is you must dance.
Yeah.
Because I think kind of what you're going on, like dancing just frees you in a way, you know. I used to be so afraid of dancing, but now I'm like, I don't care at all, you know. And so I found it to just be a very liberating thing. And so as you may have experienced at my parties, is that if people aren't dancing, I'm usually doing something to try to get them to dance. Like, hey, get the fuck up and dance, you know. And so yeah, I think that's what I'd put on my brick.
I love it. You must dance.
You must dance.
You must dance.
See, the thing is,
dance.
the thing about that phrase, it's either an order, like a demand that you have to, you have to follow, or it's a way that you feel, right? It's a part of your soul. Like, oh, I must dance, you know? Yeah, that is part of who I am, and so it's kind of a double meaning there.
Yeah.
I love that. Sometimes with some folks, it starts as the command and ends up becoming the mantra.
Right. Exactly.
Let's dance.
Yeah. Put on your pink boat and dance out here. Like whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you're really not thinking about it too, when you're really just dancing and you're not even concerned about what you're doing or if anybody's watching you, that's when it's like the most sort of like spiritual experience. You know, you'll kind of come out of it like, oh, what was going on there? You know, and I'll find like if I'm at a festival or something like that, there's been some moments where I'll find myself kind of just in that like grooving, you know, and I'll open my eyes and there'll be like 3 or 4 people like looking at me like, oh wow, that guy looks like he's having a good time, you know, and I'm like, you should try this. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. I'm one of those people. Sometimes I hide behind the DJ booth and just let the fucking shoulders do the thing, and then my hips.
With no music playing to anybody else.
Thank you for reminding me. Yeah.
Just dance in his own head.
That's why nowadays I like, I check every time. Just pop the earphone out. Just double check, triple check.
Right.
But yeah. No, those are great mantras and great way of kind of thinking of everything. So we're so excited, and thank you guys for joining us and sharing so much with us here on These Walls Can Talk. We're excited to do a lot more as we move further in our creative community here in Austin and throughout the world. So can't thank you all enough.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks for
guys.
having us.
Thank you.
You have been listening to These Walls Can Talk, a Hope Outdoor Gallery podcast, powered by Dropbox, DocSend, and Ibble.